The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
I want to thank my staff for receiving a significant amount of inquiries and emails and correspondence over the last several months that we've served as the new Bronx Borough President since January 1st. It's really a part of the process that we want to make sure is open and as fulfilling as possible to make sure that everyone has a chance to truly be heard. So thank you again, Jatan, and we're going to do some housekeeping rules in just a second. And I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, where we're inviting all of you for an opportunity to share your testimony, your input, and your thoughts on the proposed Bruckner Sites Rezoning. The intention of this evening is to hear from everyone and to make sure that we operate tonight's hearing on one accord. This is truly government in action, and this is Bronx Borough Hall. This is the hall of the people, and that's exactly who we want to hear from. Whether you are a resident, a homeowner, a renter, a tenant, a stakeholder, an advocate, an environmentalist, you are a business owner, an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. Everyone cares about the future of the BronxNet community as well as overall the entire Borough of the Bronx. And so your thoughts and words that are shared tonight matter for my team and I, and will help guide us and inform us of the decisions that we have to make moving forward. So now is the time to speak up. We will also share another opportunity because we wanted to make this process as open and engaging as we could. But obviously 2 years of COVID, we are still following a series of guidelines to make sure that everyone is safe. And so even after tonight, you will still have an opportunity to participate. To those who may not make it tonight, certainly on tomorrow, there will also be another opportunity. So I thank each and every one of you for your time tonight. Thank you for coming out, and we look forward to a very productive evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Borough President. And I'm going to turn it over to Sam Goodman, who will now go over the run of show and set the ground rules for the public hearing.
Good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me? I have a rather loud voice, okay? Okay, so I'm Sam Goodman. I'm the ULURP coordinator for Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, and I welcome you to this ULURP hearing. Here's how this is going to work. First, the applicant will make their presentation, followed by questions that the Borough President and members of her staff will ask, followed by public statements that the elected community may wish to enter into the record, followed by the opportunity for everyone who signed up in advance of this hearing to make a 2-minute presentation, a 2-minute comment. No questions of the applicants are permitted during this hearing, okay? You will each get, upon your name being announced, 2 minutes to make your presentation. I am the timekeeper, and I have here a bell that I will ring precisely after your 2 minutes are completed. I would ask that you please, for the sake of the flow of the evening's agenda, please make your statement as brief and as punctual as you can, okay? And that's, the other thing is, we do have a closed date time. By 8:30, this hearing has to be completed because the building closes shortly thereafter. So we ask that you please do not interrupt when someone is speaking, and please do not, you don't need to applaud, you don't need to express any emotions at all. This is a hearing, and everyone here, we're asking that they please respect everyone who makes a presentation. And that pretty much sums it up. Tomorrow evening, commencing at 5 p.m., there will be a virtual hearing, and you can locate the site for that hearing on the Borough President's webpage, and through your computer, you can participate again tomorrow night. Okay? With that said, we're going to now read the docket description. Community District Number 10, ULURP application C22007, ZMX, Bruckner Sites Rezoning. I'm going to read an abbreviated version of it. You should have gotten this as part of the agenda this evening. The full thing's written out for you. In the matter of an application submitted by BronxNet Associates, LLC, pursuant to sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter for the amendment of the zoning map, section number 4B as in boy, eliminating from within an existing R41 district, a C12 district, bounded by a southerly boundary line of St. Raymond Cemetery and its easterly proclamation, East Tremont Avenue, Bruckner Expressway, and a line 100 feet easterly of Rivera Avenue. I'm not going to be going through those boundaries just to make it faster. Eliminating from an existing R4A district, a C12 district, eliminating from an existing 4A district, a C22 district, changing from an R41 district to an R5B district, changing from an R41 district to an R6A district, changing from an R4A district to an R6A district, establishing within the proposed R5B district a C24 district, establishing within the proposed R6A district a C24 district. Borough of the Bronx, Community District Number 10, as shown on the diagram for illustrative purposes only, dated March 28, 2022, and subject to the condition to seeker declaration E669. That is the abbreviated version of the agenda for this evening and the docket description. Again, if you want a copy of that full docket description, you should have it on your agenda sheet for this evening. I now turn the hearing back over to the Borough President and to Bhutan to continue the hearing.
Thank you, Sam. So I'm going to turn it over to the applicant team, who will make their presentation now.
Good evening, Borough President Gibson and Director of Planning Development, Jutan Hortzman, and Sam Goodman from the Borough President's Office. My name is Jackie Scarinci of Ackerman LLP on behalf of the applicant, BronxNet Associates LLC. I'm joined here this evening by Joseph and Peter Vavona, the owners of Site A, as well as other members of the applicant team, and we thank you for your time to present the project and look forward to sharing this as part of the Borough President's review in the land use review process. We are here to share our vision today of Bruckner Boulevard in this unique area of Bruckner Boulevard that is in need of revitalization and modest new growth. The proposal applies to 4 block fronts along the Bruckner Expressway that are on the fringe of the lower density growth management area and does not directly impact the lower density character north of the Bruckner Boulevard block fronts. The project area fronts on Bruckner Boulevard and East Tremont Avenue, 2 very important commercial corridors in Bronx Community District 10. They're both wide streets by zoning definition and areas appropriate for new growth. This area is a crossroads for commercial and mixed-use development. As you can see, it's just north of the Throgs Neck bid and just south of the proposed East Tremont Avenue. Just east of Site A is Miele Park and PSX 014. Throgs Neck is not immune to the challenges like food insecurity, rising cost of living, small business struggling to stay open, the housing crisis, and skyrocketing cost of living. We are proposing an investment in this community that we really believe can help address some of these challenges. We are here today to highlight the project's benefits specifically for the Throgs Neck community and how the project will bring modest growth, but maintain the Throgs Neck character that the members of the community know and love. The first benefit is food security and retaining a quality supermarket and 85 local supermarket jobs that have been within the community for the past 90 years and the past 20 years with this specific supermarket operator, the Bovona family. Second, to provide permanently affordable housing and new housing for the BronxNet community facing an overall housing shortage with its senior and veteran populations at particular risk. New housing opportunities for different phases of life, especially for youth, and quality housing for seniors that are downsizing and don't want to move to Long Island or Upper Westchester and want to stay in the BronxNet community. 99 units of permanently senior affordable housing and 22 units of veterans housing, and especially for those with disabilities, a youth recreation center, and a very long-lasting economic impact and jobs for the community. I'll now go into each of the benefits in greater detail. Just to point out for food security, this superfood town, you can see a 1-mile radius diagram drawing. There is only one other full-service supermarket within the 1-mile radius. If Superfood Town shuts down, then there's only one for this entire community. The supermarket serves 700 to 2,000 customers per day in the BronxNet community. And like I said, it's been owned and operated by the family for over 20 years, 85 supermarket jobs. And as part of the proposal, Site A would have an approximately 17,000 square foot supermarket and retain all of these local jobs. Without the rezoning, the supermarket faces the challenges that many other businesses are facing right now and will have to close down. Permanent closure of the superfood town of BronxNet would negatively impact the food infrastructure for the community. Overall, the project, Community District 10 needs specific focus on aging and unmaintained housing stock. The rental vacancy rate in CB10 is very low, 2.4%. There's a strong demand for new housing, and 23.9% of CB10 is age 65 plus, with 16% of CB10 age 65 plus living in poverty. These numbers are striking, and the team has noted that there is a very strong need for senior affordable housing in the community, but also housing for families. And with 4 different sites, we're able to accomplish a variety of housing across the different sites. In addition, just to point out, this area was downzoned 20 years ago. The particular sites along Bruckner, the zoning remained the same, that was contextualized, but overall there has been little growth. As you can see from the New York City Housing Tracker, District 13 significantly lags behind the citywide average for creating new housing units, and we are in a severe housing crisis. So just to discuss sites A and B, the housing program is for families, and we heard the community's concerns about the level of density, and we're able to increase the number of family-size units within the project, which overall reduces the number of units across these 2 sites. So one of the changes was to add 11 3-bedroom units to Site A, which results in an overall reduction from 139 units down to 126 units. And 44% of the units will be 2- and 3-bedroom units for families. Site B added 4 3-bedroom units, and we'll have 16 2-bedroom units, so 20% 2- and 3-bedroom units for families. Overall, the apartment sizes are larger. I think given the market in this area, the need for larger units, they're all above what the HPD average net square footage is for apartment sizes. And, I think this is something that the team really considered important and something we want to work, together with the community on. So just moving to Site C, change to this development program originally was proposed as 65 units with 19 affordable units, and now will be 100% permanently senior affordable housing. The team is working with HPD on providing up to 99 permanently affordable senior housing units that will be restricted by regulatory agreement with HPD. And this is in particular in response to the really high rates of seniors living in poverty in Bronx CD10. And then the last site, Site D, we've heard that there's a significant population of veterans living in BronxNet that are in need of housing. This site is the smallest. It is a proposed 3-story building with 22 units, and the applicant team has committed to veterans housing with the Tunnel to Towers Stephen Siller Foundation. I believe Matthew Mahoney of the Stephen Siller Foundation is here tonight. They do not take government subsidy for these units. They raise the money for the units, and the veterans are provided services on site. They can also retrofit the units for veterans with disabilities. A lot of the veterans that they serve are targeting the most recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, so they're younger veterans, but they serve a full range of ages, older veterans as well. And we've been working with them to make sure that there's a local preference specifically for BronxNet and the Bronx community, and they intend to have everybody come from the Bronx. Also, Site B will have a youth recreation center. Bronx CD10's district needs specifically identified the need for youth wellness and recreation centers for children, and there will be a new 23,703 square foot youth center, which will have on-site tutoring, and it will serve the wider community. This building is 5 stories tall. And, I think the team currently has a local batting cage operator in the facility and would like to work with them in the future. But it is a space that they're looking to partner with local not-for-profits and would like to take the advice of local community members of other individuals that may be involved in this space. Just getting into the overall economic impact of the project. There will be 300 to 350 construction jobs generated by the project. Those are temporary jobs, but the team has committed to partnership with 32BJ for 14 building service workers across all 4 sites. And the 85 supermarket jobs will be preserved on Site A. It will also be jobs generated by the Youth Recreation Center and the senior services component of the project. To summarize the land use actions we're requesting, I know Sam read them off, but a zoning map amendment from the current R41 and R4A to an R6A over the sites from Crosby to Revere, and then further down and from an R4 to an R5B. And that's the building with the 3-story building further down. And a zoning text amendment to designate portions of the project area as an MIH area to require permanent affordable housing, and a city map amendment to eliminate Meyer Street on Site B. Just to give you an overall on the proposed project overview, there will be 4 buildings, 309 total parking spaces, 269,975 square feet of residential floor area, 126 units at Site A, 102 units at Site B, 99 senior units at Site C, 22 veterans housing units. And there will be commercial for this superfood town, a new youth recreation center, and a long-lasting job impact with 126 permanent jobs.
Thank you so much for giving us an understanding of what the proposal contains that's on the table today. So just a couple of questions, and then if my team has anything to add, and then we certainly want to get to the community board, elected officials, and members of the public. So the first question I have is, Community Board 10 made it very clear in their recommendations that they were opposed to this rezoning and the project overall. And within their recommendations, they noted that the project is within a lower density growth management area, and that being along the Bruckner Expressway can lead to increased asthma rates. They also noted that they felt that the rezoning proposal is a spot zoning issue. So I'd like to hear from the proposal in terms of the developer, your thoughts on the concerns of what the community board has raised, because in their decision, these were issues that they raised throughout the entire process. So I'm wondering what has been done to address that in terms of increased asthma rates and this being a particular spot zoning issue.
Okay, thanks. I think there's 3 points there. On the first one, the lower density growth management area, there's a recognition that this is an area that, just given the site context, it's really on the fringe of the lower density area and the character that's being maintained by the lower density growth management area, given that it is on the Bruckner Boulevard. And Bruckner Boulevard and East Tremont is really, it's commercial in nature and an area that's more appropriate for mixed use development. And this is, it is a modest increase in density. I know there are members of the community that will disagree with that statement, but overall, it is a 3-story building, a 5-story building. You have an 8-story building that's 100% affordable, and an 8-story building that's keeping the supermarket within the community. And it's appropriate in terms of the density because you're on 2 wide streets. It is, it's outside the transit zone, but there are bus lines that are easily accessible on the Bruckner. So I think that was your first point. On the spot zoning by definition is when you're rezoning one particular site. Here we're rezoning multiple sites along the Bruckner Boulevard, and there's context for the commercial corridor, and there's a land use rationale for the rezoning on a wide street and in an area that's accessible to transit. And the last point on the increased asthma rates, I think that point is well taken. I think increased asthma rates are occurring all over the city, and it's something that, especially with new development, there's increased standards for indoor air quality, better ventilation, HVAC systems that will improve the overall quality. And, I think in some ways, hopefully the buildings are some kind of buffer to the existing low density area in the Bruckner. But there will also be double pane window glass as a requirement of the environmental review, the E designation. There's a high decibel level for the windows to ensure that any noise is mitigated that runs along the Bruckner Expressway. This was all done as part of the environmental review for the project.
Okay, so you brought up a good point, and you said modest, and I want to go back to that because it's important that when we talk about any proposal that we strike a balance. And I think that with any rezoning proposal, before we welcome new residents, we have to benefit the current residents. I think that's an important point. I recognize that almost 20 years ago, there was a down zoning that was approved by the city, by the administration for a reason. And yes, I will acknowledge that in almost 20 years, there are many neighborhoods that do change. Sorry, we said no clapping. I do recognize that in almost 20 years, there are neighborhoods that do change. Across the city, there are commercial neighborhoods that are now more residential, that are more mixed use, that are more industrial. I understand that. So I want to be very mindful of the current residents and population that lives there today, and how this proposal is going to benefit them first, and then recognize new residents that we would like to welcome into the community. Does this proposal achieve that?
You know, I think,
Because I think-
just to get to the point, I think.
We define modest in different ways.
Yes, no, and I think it's fair that, you know, the current community, there are some members of the community that do not want any change or increase in density within Throgs Neck. I do not think it's a representation of everyone in Throgs Neck, and I think that, you know, overall, I think just going back to the project benefits that the team has identified for these sites, there was careful consideration for the current community, and I think that goes right back to the food security and superfood town. I mean, the superfood town was open throughout the COVID pandemic. They didn't shut down one day. They serve 700 to 2,000 customers per day. They're local residents that go to the supermarket. It's really important to have access to quality, affordable, fresh foods every day. And in addition to that, the permanent affordable housing, there's still a 50% community preference for Throgs Neck Co-op City Community Board 10. Just going down the senior affordable housing, same thing. It will be a 50% community board preference for members of Board 10. The veterans housing, you know, we partner with the Siller Foundation, and we made it a point to them that, you know, we care about the veterans in Throgs Neck and the Bronx community, and they've committed to have all of the units go to Bronx residents, and with a special preference for residents in Throgs Neck. The Youth Recreation Center, you know, I think that the team from Site B, they recognize that the batting cage is doing well in the location now, and there's a need for a youth recreation center. We've heard it from the community as well, that this is something that they want and need. And the last one is the economic impacts. I think that, you know, keeping 85 local supermarket jobs is really important. And the commitment to work with 32BJ for quality building service worker jobs. These I think are really important benefits for the Throgs Neck community, and I would hope that members of the community could see some of the good in a lot of these points too.
Okay. So just help me understand the idea and some of the thought process behind the actual proposed rezoning, because many would argue that within the current zoning, there could be potential mixed-use opportunities of both commercial and residential. And I think a lot of the concern that our office has heard repeatedly and consistently has been the density. A majority of this proposal is seeking a rezoning from R41 and R4A to an R6A. So some would argue that's modest, but others would say that's a big jump in terms of density. So just help me understand the thought process behind the current zoning, and why not a zoning district with a maximum shorter building height?
I think it's a fair question, and one that I think, you know, for the development team has thought about. If there is no rezoning, these sites will remain the same. This area will remain underutilized. The buildings will not be able to be redeveloped and repurposed and create more of a vibrant neighborhood along the Bruckner. You know, I think with this increase in density, this allows for the mixed-use program, and there are a lot of benefits here. When you're looking at a youth recreation center, you need a certain level of density to support these uses. In addition to that, the supermarket, like we said, cannot continue to operate at at the levels that they're at now, and they will close down. So without having additional residential units and a mixed-use development to support these uses, it's not possible to redevelop these sites. Just along that point, I think there is concern about the lower density areas that are, as you move in away from Bruckner, are making the point that the Bruckner is a different, unique location. But just on that point, the buildings allow for, in an R6A, allow for 85 feet, but within 25 feet of the R4, the buildings must come down to 45 feet, which is 4 stories. And they're required an 8-foot setback yard, so you can't have anything within 8 feet at all. And then the buildings will come down from, and there's only 2 buildings that are 8 stories. I just want to make sure that everyone's clear on that. The other building, Site B is a 5-story building, and Site D is a 3-story building. But the 8-story buildings will be required within 25 feet of the R4 to scale down to 45 feet. And there will also be a required side yard. That's the zoning requires that, so that's something that cannot be changed if the zoning is adopted.
Okay. My final question, because I know we have to move on. Are you able to provide us with any information on the environmental impact study that you have done with regard to the impact that any proposal would have on the local traffic, as well as local schools, local parks, playgrounds, open spaces? Obviously welcoming new people means more traffic, it means more trash, and I think those are legitimate concerns that any resident, any homeowner, any business owner would have. So have you been able to do a full analysis of the environmental impact?
Yes, as part of the uniform land use review process with city planning, we're required to do an environmental quality review act review, and the Department of City Planning reviews our application. Their environmental review department determined that a negative declaration was issued, which means that there is no significant adverse impact on the environment in each of the areas studied. And I do have a slide that goes through the areas that were studied. But you know what? Just to go into some of the areas you hit on: traffic, schools, parks, all of these areas, a detailed analysis was done as part of the environmental review, and there was a determination by city planning that no significant adverse impacts on the environment.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we're going to move on. And so the next up will be any elected officials that want to speak today. I recognize Assemblyman Benedetto, who is here.
Good evening, Mr. Director, Madam Borough President. Honored to be here today, and thank you very much to afford me the opportunity. Listen, I've lived in this area all my life. I'm very, very familiar with it. I have represented this area for the last 17 and a half years, and it's a very nice area. It's a combination of single one-family homes and nice calm atmosphere, and it also takes in city Co-op City, the largest Mitchell-Lama development in the nation, okay, as well as apartment buildings in the Pelham Bay section. You know, people came here and they wanted a particular feel about a community that I love. And they could have moved to Co-op City. They could have moved to the apartment buildings in Pelham Bay, but instead they elected to go to less dense areas that we have. It's a different way of life. It's a way of life that people have invested their life savings in. And they came here because they could have chosen different areas that are more vibrant and reflective of various other parts of the city, but they did not. They wanted something calmer. This was the atmosphere that they wanted. This was the atmosphere they voted on 15, 20 years ago for the rezoning, okay? Down zoning. To change that attitude now, to upzone this area would be a stab in the back to those people who invested their savings in these houses and in the atmosphere that they have chosen to live in. Okay, again, they could have picked Co-op City, they could have picked Pelham Bay, they didn't. They wanted to go here. I implore you to cancel this upzoning, okay? Go with what we chose and the hearings that were held years ago, having down-zone area and maintain the feeling that they have right now. And with that, I'll end my testimony and I'll go back to my campaigning. I'll say you good night.
Thank you. Are there any other elected or representatives of elected speakers here? Oh, please. Oh, yes, of course.
I can see.
Hi, Councilmember Velasquez here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So I just wanted to give you a little brief statement. Many have heard of this one before because it was given. So, since the community first heard about the rezoning and throughout the many presentations that have been given, I said I don't want to support the Bruckner Boulevard rezoning proposal. Any new development in this community needs to address existing inequities before I'd be able to support them. Due to the current lack of existing infrastructure, including acceptable school space, parking, public transportation, and other needs, I cannot support any project that doesn't include remedies for these issues. I want to thank the Borough President for hosting this forum and listening to the concerns of my community right here. I support the process and her desire to listen to all sides of this project. And I reiterate, I do not support this proposal, and I will not tolerate the divisive rhetoric from those interested in serving themselves rather than the community. We will continue to work to bring our community forward. Thank you.
Any other elected or representatives of? Moving on, is there a representative of Committee Board 10 here today?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Matt, you with me? Sure. Madam Borough President, I'm Joe Russo, Chairman of Bronx Community Board 10. I stand here as your duly elected chairperson of the board within whose confines the zoning variance request sits. It's my duty to report to you that your board has reviewed the proposal. We've undertaken extensive constituent outreach. We've had 3 official meetings, including public hearing, at which the applicants presented their proposal. We've had numerous discussions on the matter leading up to submittal of the application. Madam Borough President, over 30 years of community service, I've never seen your board and the community it serves so united. The Housing and Zoning Committee voted 13 to 0 against supporting the application for the variance, and 96% of the full board voted against supporting the application for the variance. While we recognize that the board is purely advisory, we do serve at your behest as your eyes and ears at the local level. I trust that our findings will be duly considered as you make your decision whether to support this application. You've already mentioned a couple of these points, but I do want to stress as well. The community is not opposed to development or investment. We're not opposed to affordable housing. We're not opposed to senior living or veterans housing. But development and investment in the structure of the zoning. The R4 zoning designation has been in place for 20 years. The area was zoned accordingly when the applicants bought the properties. They knew what they were buying and what it was zoned for. The applicants gambled that with the right consultants and facilitators, they could steamroll the zoning variance through the community board, the Borough President's office, and the City Council. Zoning variances should not just be handed out. Which brings me to my second point, zoning matters. Our community started the application process for R4 zoning designation in the mid-1990s. It was a 10-year process through which various council members, borough presidents, and mayoral administrations. The designation, after an arduous review process, was granted in 2004 and it's been in place ever since. These applicants seek to overturn the results of a 30-year process in less than a year without understanding the impact that variance will have on the community. They're in for a quick buck at the expense of our mutual constituents. Which brings me to the final point, and that's that I ask you to take a long-term view, beyond 2022. I'm asking you to be a true guardian of the future of the Bronx. I'm sure these applicants have their best intentions in 2022. But what happens in 2032 and 2042 and beyond? What happens to the community when these buildings become unprofitable, when they become abandoned, when the applicants' children decide to sell and eliminate the senior housing and veterans housing? These people have no track record or experience in major urban development, and it would be foolish for us to give them a free pass to overturn a 30-year process on a whim and a PowerPoint. The Bronx deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm now going to turn it over to, well, I will announce names. So I'm going to announce 3 speakers so that you know when you're going to be coming up. The first speaker will be Mark Walter. The second speaker will be Jesse Lang. The third speaker will be Marianne Musano.
And I'm the bell ringer.
Got it soon.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I moved here in 2008. I live in BronxNet community. Sorry, can you hear me better? Okay, thank you. I moved here in 2008. I live in the BronxNet community, a wonderful community. I've walked in Queens. I've walked in Brooklyn. I've walked in Harlem. So take the walk with me. I see a community alive with residential homes, talking to each other, commenting about the flowers, commenting about the clothes, asking how their mother is, grandmother's is, and everything. Now take a walk with me to Manhattan. I'm in awe of these upscale boxes of people's stories and people coming in and out the door. What's missing? The feeling of community. I don't want to see this in BronxNet. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse Lang.
Hi, good evening. I am speaking here tonight in support of the Bruckner Boulevard rezoning. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Thank you.
much better.
Within City Council District 13, only 58 affordable units have been built since 2014. And as I understand it, this project alone would nearly double that number. This district is in the bottom 5 citywide for affordable housing production in that time period, and it has significantly lower than the citywide average residential density. Its rental vacancy rate is also lower than the citywide average, and yet more than half of its residents are cost burdened. There is a clear and urgent need for more housing in this area. I want to see New York City meet the housing needs of its residents, and that needs to start with ensuring that wealthier and more affluent and also lower density neighborhoods like this that have historically opposed new development start to play a role. So for that reason, I hope that you will vote in favor of this. I know that BronxNet is a neighborhood that is home to a lot of families, and it's really important that when families grow up and when adults age and want to downsize, that they are able to do so and remain in their own community if that's what they choose to do. As we heard from the applicant, this is something that this development will enable people to do. I know that the representative from the community board asked what will happen in 2032, what will happen in 2042. What is going to happen is that existing residents are going to be displaced unless this community starts to add more housing so that people can stay. In any desirable neighborhood, as I know that this one is, people will move in and they will displace additional residents unless we provide
Thank
more
you.
housing. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Mary Jane, the next three speakers will be Judith Passarelli, Joseph Russo, and then Patrick McManus.
I am vehemently opposed to the Bruckner upzoning as it will undo all of the important work that was done to find a zoning that fits our community. We worked together with city government and our electeds. They granted the zoning because they knew that our services and infrastructure could not support denser zoning. Over the years, our neighborhood has grown, but our services and infrastructure have not. I believe that we will never have the services to support an upzoning. The city is in an economic crunch now and will likely get worse, so improving our services is extremely unlikely. It's backwards thinking to upzone first and then say services will follow when we know that that never happens. Our community offers a wonderful lifestyle to all. It is a planned slice of suburbia that all can enjoy. We have affordable housing, which, as you know, in our community is really not affordable. In our big buildings, Pelham Bay is booming with development of multi-story buildings and affordable housing. I think that we offer a better solution or a different solution to the so-called affordable housing that we have now in big buildings. Most of the houses in our downzoned area are two-family homes. Those landlords are renting at more reasonable rates, and they often don't ask for rent increases. There is tremendous value in low-density communities, and I think we're really forgetting that. They are greener and more environmentally friendly. People are coming to our community from denser communities because they want a backyard where their children and their pets can play. They hope for a parking spot on the block where they live and maybe even a garage. Our borough should be diversified just like its people. Let's offer choices. We can have both low-density and high-density areas. If this application is improved, developers will descend on our community like locusts because a precedent will have been set. They are already lined up for the kill. These developers do not live here. They will build monstrosities that will destroy our way of life.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judith Passarelli, thank you.
As a resident of the neighborhood under attack, I want to say that I am against this upzoning. Our infrastructure cannot handle the houses that we already have. Many houses are already flooding when there is any major storm. We already have 2 overcrowded schools. Where do they think we can put an additional 500 to 600 children? The traffic on Crosby Avenue is at a dangerous level now. There is a school directly across from this proposed site, and parents double park from Baisley Avenue to Bruckner Boulevard, leaving only one open lane, which is the center lane, in either direction. I have personally witnessed buses not being able to go up and down Crosby Avenue, ambulances that cannot get through, fire trucks that have had to reroute to get around the traffic, delaying them further getting to a fire. This delay in response time can cause people to die. As in the recent high-rise fire tragedy in the South Bronx, our emergency fire equipment cannot reach higher floors in large buildings. By area, we are the largest precinct in the Bronx with the least amount of police. We have only 6 squad cars to cover BronxNet, Pelham Bay, Westchester Square, Country Club, Co-op City, City Island, and the village of Baychester. There are already delayed response times, and adding several thousand people will delay response times even further. People's lives will be put in danger. This project will negatively impact our already overcrowded hospitals. Patients are already spending days and sometimes weeks in the emergency room because there are no beds now. Adding several thousand people will make a bad situation worse. The parking situation is at a record-breaking level. The city parking requirements in higher density zones are antiquated. They don't consider the overwhelming ownership of cars. Adding several hundred cars to our streets will be a total disaster and add to the nightmare. More people bring more crime, more street congestion, and more overcrowded schools and hospitals. These developers should leave us alone and build this monstrosity where they live in Englewood, New Jersey. If they think this is such a great and wonderful project, we live here.
Thank you for your testimony.
And we know what's best for our neighborhood.
Thank you. Joseph Russo.
the same Joseph?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm seeing
sorry.
them.
Yep. Patrick McManus, and then Joseph Metragon, apologies. Matranga? Thank you.
Yes, hi. I'm here tonight to speak on the process that the developer has used and actually quoted the FEIS and the CEQR processes. And this is an in-depth study of two upzoning projects, which was one in New York City, one in 2001, one in 2004. Long Island City and downtown Brooklyn. Obviously, there are some differences. But the FEIS, which was mentioned, showed no significant impact to our neighborhood. For the Long Island City project, it projected 300 new units with 300,000 square feet of space in 300 units. End result 14 years later was 8.74 million square feet of development with more than 10,000 new units. Said FEIS for downtown Brooklyn forecast 979 residential units, actually netted 8,000 new units. Same study, FEIS, projected in Long Island City the need for 99 additional school seats. Well, that was off by 250%. There are now more than 3,200 new students in that area, leaving one elementary school 14 years after the project was started with a 200% capacity. Downtown Brooklyn, the study forecast the need for 446 new student seats. As of the time of this study, 2018, 4,400 seats were required. The study further showed census data in these areas actually decreased the affordable housing stock by, in some cases, as much as 40%. And the demographics stated in the report are now whiter, wealthier, and more crowded. These are all contradictory, proven facts to what is being proposed here. I don't understand why the city keeps approving
Thank you,
projects
Patrick. Thank
when
you.
they're left to clean up the developer's mess.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you. Joseph.
Hello, Madam Borough President and team. My name is Joseph Matranga. I moved into the area under consideration about 25 years ago when I was getting married. And I thought it would be a good area to raise a family. And I was blessed with 4 children, and we raised 4 kids here in this relatively low-density area. Bottom line is, increasing the housing density is just not a good idea in this area. Why? Well, I mean, it's been stated, but the current infrastructure and the support services provided by our city are just not sufficient for the current as-is situation. I mean, the schools are overcrowded. I mean, we can't deny that. Water and sewer situations, sanitation, we are a bit dirtier, I mean, ever since the pandemic especially. And crime is increasing. The 45th precinct has had a 42% increase over the past year in general, which is the second highest increase in the Bronx, which isn't good. So in other words, we need more police presence with the currently, and road traffic is a problem. So basically in conclusion, changing the zoning is a big deal. That's why we're here, and it'll just adversely impact our community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next 3 speakers will be Andrew Chirico, Austin Celestin, and then Michael Cases. Yes. That's okay.
Good evening, Madam Borough President. My name is Andrew Chirico. I'm a member of the Coalition Against Upzoning, the Waterbury LaSalle Community Association, the American Legion, and the board member of CB10. I have in front of you in excess of 10,000 signed petitions from area residents. I also have in front of you in excess of 300 written statements from residents from Throgs Neck, Schuylerville, Pelham Bay, Country Club, Spencer Estates, Edgewater Park, Ferry Point Park, Locust Point, Silver Beach, City Island, and other places, all opposing the Bruckner upzoning. Among these letters, on the top of the list, you have a statement from our former councilman, James Vaca, opposing this. You have another letter there from the Throgs Neck Homeowners Association, representing 450 families in the area. Another letter from the Waterbury LaSalle Community Association, and we represent 300 families. All of these people are opposed to any change in our zoning. Our low-density growth management area, our zoning is R3A and R34, which requires 150% off-street parking in our low-density zone. We have no need and no room for additional housing. There is no reason to change or increase any type of housing allowed in our zone by code in our community. We have a large housing project in Throgs Neck with 36 buildings, high-rise and some 3-story buildings. 2 of them are reserved for seniors. We have every kind of private house in the neighborhood, 1, 2, 3 family houses. We also have 2 Mitchell-Lamo buildings in Pelham Bay. We are losing homes.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, can I leave you this?
You can leave the testimony, yes. We will read it. Next up, Austin Celestin.
I had to check the time to make sure I got my opening right. Good evening. My name is Austin Celestin. I am a rising junior at NYU. NYU's Ferment Center released their State of the City housing report 2 weeks ago. The 185,000 units of housing they reported built in the last decade is a lower rate than during the Great Depression and a decrease from the previous decade. COVID-era rents are a distant memory. People can't live in the neighborhoods they grew up in, all while newcomers compete for an essentially non-existent supply. This project at least helps a little bit to slightly alleviate the problem. Opponents will invoke the precedence of the neighborhood's low-density zoning. That precedent is part of what causes this housing crisis in the first place. Throgs Neck has spent decades building minimal housing and downzone in the 1990s to further restrict new housing supply. You can't invoke a housing crisis while maintaining policies that have demonstrably made the problem worse. No neighborhood exists in a bubble, and the actions made here have impacts outward as everywhere else. The status quo has gotten us here, and the status quo cannot be maintained. About the infrastructure concerns, they can be solved in tandem with this project. The housing doesn't just pop up. It's not a balloon. If the infrastructure needs an upgrade, sewers, transit, food, school expansions, the latter of which was opposed in the past, there's no reason they can't be added alongside this project while it's being built. 334 apartments, 94 affordable isn't much. It isn't enough, but it's necessary. It adds way more housing stock than Throgs Neck has built in recent decades. And that should be indicative of a much larger problem in this neighborhood. And as badly needed, it can add stock to an area that most certainly can handle it, and badly needed affordable housing that the entire city desperately needs. The only change that will make necessary is to remove the parking requirements and improve the public transit access for local buses and even expansions for the 6th train, which is not that far away. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Michael Casas. Following that will be Anthony Odo, Luke Zabatos, and Mark Walter.
Hi, my name is Michael Cash, and I'm here to urge Borough President to support the Bruckner Boulevard rezoning. We've heard the mayor's call. In order to tackle our housing crisis, we have to be a city of yes and expand housing opportunities in all neighborhoods. For too long, our communities in the East Bronx have failed to build enough new housing. According to the Citizens Budget Commission, in the prior decade, Bronx community districts 10 and 11 permitted so few new units of housing per 1,000 residents, they ranked on the bottom 10 citywide. It needs to change, and this rezoning is the right step. According to the New York Housing Conference, in the last 8 years, only 58 units of affordable housing were built in Council District 13, placing it on the bottom 5 citywide. That needs to change, and this project alone would create more than that. The proposed density on Bruckner Boulevard is appropriate. There are multiple bus lines and subways a short right away. I understand the concerns about infrastructure and services. However, I must note that many of the same folks opposed to this rezoning on the pretext of school capacity also oppose the PS14 expansion for being too big. Community objects to extra 340 seats, and this is even after Jimmy Vaca unfortunately reduced the number of new seats from 475. One civic leader wrote, quote, "The community that is zoned for PS14 is made up of mostly 1- and 2-family homes. Our community does not have much more room to grow, and therefore we will never be able to fill all of those seats." That was the talking point. A few years later, they're now saying, sorry, you can't build any apartments here. Even the expanded PS14 can't handle it. Meanwhile, attendance there has trended downwards. It is cynical, and we shouldn't let it work. Of course we should invest in our schools and infrastructure, but don't let bad faith claims stop what we need. Whether it's an annex at PS14, a road died on Tremont Avenue, or housing on Bruckner Boulevard. Some folks will never get to yes, but the city needs to get to yes. I know Bronx Borough President Gibson cares about housing. I know you can work with our councilwoman, with city planning, so we can get to yes on this without compromising the number of homes. Let's deliver for families in Throgs Neck and build these homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Anthony Odo.
Hi, my name's Anthony Otto, and I'm a resident of Pelham Bay for 45 years. I got a brief statement here that I wrote. The upzoning plan that TNA is trying to implement will open the door to overdevelopment of the community under the pretense of affordable housing. TNA had a 10-month head start on an unsuspecting community. This provided ample time to set unobstructed plans into motion. During that 10-month period, they hired land use specialist Ackerman LLP and powerful lobbyists with strong ties to the city government to push the deal through. The upcoming plan for upzoning 3/8 of a mile stretch of Bruckner Boulevard is only the beginning of upzoning. The filing includes 34 parcels not included in the upzone development, which is from Foodtown to Gifford Avenue. These parcels strongly indicate additional upzoning development in the near future. Our council member Marjorie Velasquez does not endorse the upzoning due to lack of infrastructure, transportation, parking, school overcrowding. So in closing, this is a takeover of a community under the disguise of affordable housing. Lose your zoning, lose your community. And the last thing I'd like to say to the committee, I don't know if it's a challenge or an invitation. I like you guys pick the day and the time. I will pick you up and I will drive you through these communities on a regular day. And you could see what life is in Throgs Neck, Country Club, Pelham Bay Park, City Island. And you know what? I'll even spring for lunch. And I'll promise, the only thing I'll talk about is how the Yankees are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Luke? Okay.
Hi, my name is Luke Sabados. Thank you so much for taking the time out to hear from us today. I am urging that the Borough President support this project and projects like this. As we've heard, we don't build enough housing in the East Bronx, and I'm a person that was fortunate enough to win a housing lottery here in the East Bronx, and it has changed my life. Housing is dignified. Stable housing creates for better families, and permanently affordable housing projects like this one will improve the quality of life for the people who live here. Because we don't build enough housing, when people grow up in the East Bronx, they have to move away, and that splits up families. When you build new housing, you're creating housing for the people who haven't had theirs already. A lot of people in this room, they're looking at their bank accounts. They're looking at seeing the housing stock being stifled. And that when we don't build enough housing, the current value of the existing stock skyrockets. And I get it. You want to protect your investment, but some people have a dignified opportunity to live in the Bronx, in their neighborhoods, with their families, and this project provides that. Please support this. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mark Walter, followed by Deborah Teska, and then Denise Zakeli. Is Mark Walter here? We'll set him aside and come back. Deborah Teska, and then Denise Zeltsky, and then Christine Rivera.
Hi, my name is Deborah. I am a BronxNet resident for 58 years. I stand before you to express my concern over this proposal to change the zoning in our area. We are a low-density community and have developed into an oversized community. We are trying to get grips on what we're facing today with our economy already putting us through a strain. Changing the zoning in our area at this time would be a disaster. If one of our highways, 95, the Hutchinson River Parkway, our bridges, BronxNet, Whitestone, when the traffic gets stopped, the traffic goes through our residential streets, causing havoc. I can't even explain the gridlock when school lets out. We fought this change almost 20 years ago because of all the greed that these developers want to ruin. Because of the greed that's taken place during a New York hardship, developers want to take advantage and build up and not think about the people where we live. We should have a right to speak up and protect our families and lives against something that will have an impact on us. I'm all for investing into our community, but not for destroying it by putting up tall, high-rise buildings here, and that's it. Use your zoning, use your community.
Thank you. Denise?
Hi, good evening. My name is Denise Eckley, and I live in Schuylerville. I urge you to think about who is speaking for and against this proposal, who they represent, and what their motivations are. Open New York has been recruiting people for weeks to attend this meeting to speak in favor of the proposal. They tweeted out a page and a half of talking points about the project. They've been begging people to attend tonight's meeting to find a connection to the community. If you live in the Bronx, please say so. If you have friends who live in the Bronx, tell them to attend and speak. They will tell you that by opposing this project, we in the community are spoiled and greedy. This from an organization known for campaigning on behalf of wealthy developers throughout the city. They say the project will replace vacant lots. What they haven't said is that the lots are vacant because the developers own the land and have left it dormant, hoping the rezoning will pass and allow them to build bigger and get more profits. They call us NIMBYs because we don't want this development in our backyard, but have they found anyone that wants it in theirs? How many Bronx voices have you heard tonight? What are they saying? At the community board meeting on May 19th, not a single person who spoke in favor of the proposal lives in the impacted area. One of the reasons that this proposal has sparked such outrage in the community is because from the beginning, its developers and advocates have been trying to take away our voices and invalidate our concerns about the toll that it will take on our schools, roads, public transit, and sewers. Concerns that the developers have not addressed, which will be up to the city to remediate. We are a diverse, well-integrated community of hardworking people who support growth within the current zoning. because its low-density housing allows residents to have homes in an area where we can walk to stores and parks, but also have a space of our own that the infrastructure can support.
Thank you, Denise. One second, Christine. The next three after Christine will be Fatou Sissi, Scott Harwood, and Joseph Matrajana. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, Borough President, and committee members. I was born and raised in the Bronx. My grandparents worked hard in factories for the American dream. My grandfather, who fought in the Korean War, worked at Eagle Electric, making electrical pieces, and my grandmother sewed undergarments in the garment district. They bought a home in Parkchester. I grew up in Parkchester on White Plains Road. I know the importance of home ownership. I am a single mother, raising my 2 children in the borough that I love, the Bronx, in BronxNet. We go to school to build a career and buy a home. That's what we aspire. If there is anything that we learn from this, I hope it is that our current zoning protects homeowners in our communities from overdevelopment. The Bruckner development is not about affordable housing. It's not about veterans or for the working middle class. It's about developers getting a return on their investment. This upzoning is about the displacement of thousands of Bronx residents from their homes where luxury apartments are being built. This is about destroying communities for hardworking Bronx families who don't want to move to Westchester, who don't want to move to Long Island. We love the Bronx and we want to stay in the Bronx. We want to raise our families in the Bronx. These high-rise apartments destroy communities by killing off green space, overcrowding our schools, and strains the capacity of our infrastructure. The future of the Bronx does not include overdevelopment in high-density communities. The future of the Bronx is really an investment in home ownership and green space and environmentally friendly neighborhoods. That's what we need. We need services for seniors, we need services for youth, and we need affordable housing. But there's a simple solution: build under the current zoning laws.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening. I own a home 2 blocks from the proposed site at Bruckner Boulevard in Crosby, and I am opposed to the rezoning. During Hurricane Ida, the ground floor of my house was under 3 feet of water, causing more than $20,000 damage to my home. Hundreds of my fellow neighbors were also devastated by the storm and collectively lost millions of dollars. And they would agree that the current infrastructure cannot handle a project of this size. Also, as you know, Ms. Gibson, children of the Bronx have the highest rate of asthma and other respiratory illnesses in the United States. I'm an asthmatic myself. And neighborhoods along the Bruckner corridor have the highest rates. Residents of these units will live right on top of I-95 and be exposed to exhaust effluents from over 100,000 vehicles every single day, creating a major health hazard for these families. As for the housing crisis, there are currently 20,000 Airbnb short-term rental listings in New York City, while only 10,000 current long-term rental listings. The City Council passed a law in December to cut down on these illegal rentals. I ask you to encourage the City Council to make an effort to make these apartments available to those that need them. Lastly, a recommendation of this proposed rezoning will be viewed as a support for non-resident, wealthy developers who will profit from lower and moderate income families, not a support for the constituents in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Harwood. Oh, I was, okay, Fatou Sissi, Fatou. Not here right now? Okay. Next is Joseph Matrenja. Oh, great. Joseph Vaney. Great.
Good afternoon, everybody. I could repeat what was said initially about our lacking infrastructure and the lack of services. I could also repeat the fact that many of our residents moved here specifically because of the low-density nature of areas like Throgs Neck, of which there are very few in the Bronx. I'm not going to say that because my neighbors have said it more eloquently than I can. I'm not a great public speaker. But I will say one thing. If this goes through, this is not like bad legislation. If these buildings go up, they can't be reversed with the stroke of a pen. This is forever. So when you examine this, if you determine that we, the residents, have more validity to our arguments than this particular group of developers that really can't even be called developers. They're basically a hodgepodge of property owners that came together, saw an opportunity, and are trying to monetize their property to the greatest extent possible. I don't blame them. That's fine. But if you're going to do that, do it within the current zoning. Don't try to upend an entire community just for a couple of developers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next three speakers will be Joseph Vaney. Oh, that was, did I miss Scott Harwood? Scott is not here. Okay. Irene Guanil. Anthony Odo, did you already speak? Yeah. Catherine Donnelly. So Joseph.
Thank you very much for being here, being attentive, and being aware. It means the world. I received this text from one of my clients. I'm Irene Guanil, a real estate broker. And he said, "Hello, Irene, how are you? Wanted to see if you know anyone that can help. We tried signing up Zoe, his 3-year-old, for the upcoming school year. We got put on a wait list for every school in the neighborhood. We're 11th on the list for PS14, which is out-zone school. We spoke to Ms. Fonte at PS14. She knows zoning doesn't matter when it comes to 3K. Unfortunately, she only has 30 spots for 400 children. He proceeded to send me the list for Villa Maria, 18 seats waitlisted. 47 school, 47 waitlisted positions. Greek American, 70 positions waitlisted. Calendra, 11 waitlist positions. That's after it's been already filled. St. Teresa, 15 waitlisted. 71 Academy, 15 waitlisted. 304, 67 waitlisted. I said, I don't know if I can help you with your school issues, but I want you to protect your home ownership. I thank you for being open. I think many don't know, you said, I don't think many want change in a loaded community. It's not appropriate. I live in Country Club. I grew up blocks from here. 164 Morris Avenue. When I moved to Country Club, it was the best thing I did for my kids. I was exhausted from the buses, the gunshots, the traffic.
Thank you for your testimony. Catherine Donnelly. Following Catherine will be Harry Celentano and then Elizabeth Feely.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Donnelly, and I'm a resident of BronxNet for the last 18 years. I come here tonight to share my thoughts on the upzoning. I will start by saying Mr. Soto has accused the people of BronxNet of not wanting to have black and brown people in our neighborhood. That is untrue. We are very diverse in our neighborhood. If you walk through it, you'll see that. It's very easy to accuse us of these things because it will meet their agenda. Of course, Open New York also accused us of being a bunch of fat white people. I say to them, shame on you. It is our right to want to live and grow within our neighborhood. It is our right to have the American dream of ownership without the threat of our neighborhood being destroyed by upzoning. Instead of having people rent, why isn't Open New York, and our elected officials helping the residents of BronxNet and other neighborhoods with a home ownership so that they can build generational wealth for their families? This is the American dream. This is what the residents of BronxNet have done. My family and I have moved to BronxNet from the South Bronx and purchased our home. We chose BronxNet because the low density and the quietness of this neighborhood. We came out of an area with high rises, high crime, congestion, loud noises. We like that our neighborhood is quiet and that it's low density neighborhood. My thoughts about this is, at the end of the day, this is not about community, about them helping our community. It's about the developers lining their pockets. The people involved in the upzoning are not even a part of our neighborhood. How would they even know the fabric of our community? They don't even live here. Say no to upzoning.
Thank you. Harry? Yeah, thanks.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak tonight. My name is Harry Celentano. I'm the Director of Store Operations for Superfood Town, and I've been in that position for 20 years since the store is open. I'm also speaking to you as a long-term resident of Community Board 10. I own my own home and reside in the neighborhood also for almost as long as we've owned the supermarket. As a business, we've always tried to give back to the community in as many ways as we could. We've sponsored Little League teams, donated to senior organizations, church groups, card parties, schools, and dozens of other organizations. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we worked day and night for months to make sure that the people of this community had a place to shop. When some of the local schools couldn't get masks or hand sanitizer, we donated cases and cases of them to make sure they had what they needed. There was some of the worst times I personally have ever been through in my career in this business. I know it was a lot on myself and my staff, but we knew we had a community that was counting on us, and we weren't going to let them down. I've seen some of the negativity towards this project in the community, and it's hurtful to see, as I feel like we've always tried to do right by everyone for many years in this community. I personally believe developing these sites will only help the neighborhood. All the sites in this proposal lie on the service road for the highway. They are not smack in the middle of some residential neighborhood. Some of the proposed sites in this project are actually completely vacant. I also believe that local businesses will benefit from having a new pool of customers coming to this neighborhood, these businesses that suffered during the COVID-19 pandemic, and most of them are continuing to suffer today. With that said, I urge the Borough President to support this project, which will bring opportunity and growth to BronxNet while allowing us to remain open, serving families for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Elizabeth Feely, followed by John Serini and Eric Martz.
Good evening, Madam Borough President and committee members, and thank you for this meeting. I am against the upzoning. The BronxNet Associates assumed that to change the I'm sorry, I'm going to start again. The BronxNet Associates assumed that a request to change the zoning during a pandemic would not be a problem. BronxNet Associates assumed that the infrastructure would be able to handle this influx of 4 new buildings and tenants. The BronxNet Associates assumed that the 45th Precinct, emergency services, schools, FDNY, and our overwhelmed and understaffed local hospitals, Montefiore and Jacoby, would be able to handle the influx of residents, of tenants. Well, they assumed incorrectly. I urge you, Madam Borough President, to listen to the residents and vote no to the upzoning. Thank you.
Thank you. John.
Hi, thank you for letting us speak today. I had prepared a statement, but listening to Ackerman's presentation, there's so many things that she said that we believe are false, so I just need to address them. She said the buildings will aesthetically conform to our community. Biggest lie ever. Look at the buildings, scroll across the community. There's no 8-story buildings. There won't be any 8-story buildings. It doesn't conform. She said that Bruckner and Crosby are wide streets. Biggest lie ever, because it's only 2 lanes in each direction, and one is usually hogged up by the bus 5 or the 8. So again, another lie. She said the supermarket sales are so down, but he just admitted that they were open day and night. And I want to see if they're willing to show their financials so that we could see that their sales are actually down. I bet they're not, because they made so much money that they could build these buildings to ruin the neighborhood. She said that this proposal is only 4 sites. Again, another lie, because there's 34 sites on the proposal. So supposedly this proposal goes through, we're going to have 4 immediate buildings, but what happens to the other 30 sites? That could potentially be thousands and thousands of apartments by the time they're done. So how about telling the truth? By the time everything comes to fruition, what are we going to be stuck with? And you're not going to be there. So these are all things. Now I'd like to get back to what I originally wrote, and I'd like to say, Borough President, sometimes as regular citizens in the Bronx, we feel invisible to our elected officials. But in this case, the zoning laws are in place to protect us. We are a low-density growth management area, but we shouldn't have to fight so hard to keep a law which protects us in place. Today we stand before you as your constituents, begging you to hear our plea, begging you to see our needs. And as your constituents, we ask you today not only to hear us, but really listen. Listen to what we're saying. We are not against affordable housing. The developers in Applicant can have a field day building 1 and 2 family homes if they want, as long as it stays within the zoning, right? But they're not champions of housing as they try to make themselves sound. Unlike the developers, we breathe and live in this community. We invested our life savings into our homes. We work in our community. We're raising our families in our community. And we're asking you to please vote no.
Thank you. All right. One second, John. So Eric, after Eric will be Maricela Simon and then Noah Martz.
Hello, everyone. I am Eric Moritz, and I'm 24 years old. Me and many other 20-year-olds also have an interest in this housing development. My grandparents were born in New York City, my parents were born in New York City, and so was I. This great city attracts many people, and many people desire to live here and raise families here. However, over the past few decades, the construction of housing has not kept up with the growth of the population. It's just a fact. Therefore, the cost to live here has become extremely expensive. I don't want to move out of New York City, away from my family, away from my friends, and the jobs here. My whole life is here. But the cost of living here makes it so hard to stay. The only way to address the issue is to build more housing, to increase the supply. This is the reality of life. The population has grown, and land is a finite resource. For the sake of your own children, your own grandchildren, please allow more housing to be built. It's wonderful to have your own family live next to you. I understand how you prefer to live in a low-dense environment. The BronxNet is like a child growing up. Please don't let this suffocate the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Maricela Simon.
Good evening. My name is Maricela Simon, and I have worked at the BronxNet Superfood Town for 18 years. My husband and brother-in-law also worked at the store. Our store provides healthy food for the neighborhood, and we are an important part of this community. During COVID, we came to work every day, and the store stayed open under really scary circumstances. And we continue to serve this community's needs in the darkest time. We wear the BronxNet, and we hope this neighborhood can be there for us. I have had a good experience working here, and I know my boss just wants to keep this store going. Over the years, the owner of this store has supported this neighborhood. They have donated generously to local veterans breakfasts, the Little League, and given our turkeys to those in need at Thanksgiving. This proposed redevelopment will help the store remain here and continue serving this community's food needs. Without it, I fear the store may disappear. The kind of protests we have seen has been pretty intense and surprising. There is a lot of passion here in this community, and it is a special, unique place. I just do not understand why a couple of apartment buildings is causing everyone to get so upset. Apartment buildings are a common part of many neighborhoods. I don't believe they will destroy this area. We are talking about lots along the Bruckner Expressway. Everyone deserves a place to live that doesn't break the bank, and there is nothing to be feared by a few apartment buildings. Veterans housing, apartments for seniors, youth tutoring and sports programs, and new homes for young families and workers starting out all seem like good things to me. New family jobs.
Thank you. Noah Marks, followed by Maria Diaz and Joseph Bivano.
Hello. Hi, my name is Noah Marks. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My parents raised me to honor and respect the older generations. So let me be clear, I honor and respect the hardworking men and women who live in this community. The personal preference for quiet, single-family suburban neighborhoods should not triumph the values we hold in this nation. Using local government to deny the rights of private businesses and developers is immoral and spits in the face of the free market. Our nation thrives on capitalism, the free market, and property rights free from government overreach. Just how the government, which includes the local government, has no right to dictate what religion someone practices, the number of children someone bears, or what food a family eats for dinner, the government has no right to decide what kind of housing should be built on private land. If there is demand for single-family homes, the developer should choose to build single-family homes. If there's a demand for apartments, then the developer should be allowed to build apartments. Today, in the year of 2022, there is a great demand for apartments in the city. We should not allow government overreach and proto-communism to win. It's simple math. The population has grown, and so must our housing supply. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria? Yep.
Yes. Good evening, Madam and Borough President. My name is Maria, and 20 years ago, I left the South Bronx and proudly invested in a home of my own, with tree-lined streets, with neighbors who had an invested interest in their neighborhood, with cleaner air and a lower asthma rate, which was a personal concern for my family. Unlike the developers and everyone who is here supporting upzoning, I live in BronxNet, and the community and changing its zoning laws will personally impact me, my family, and my neighbors. Our infrastructure is already overburdened. You've heard that. I have neighbors whose children have to go to private school because their zone school doesn't have room for them. 4 years ago, pre-pandemic, I went to the emergency room and I slept 2 nights in a stretcher in the ER despite being admitted. How can these entities accommodate more people? I welcome building housing, recreational spaces, and a supermarket that keeps within our current zoning laws. I propose the 4 lots and the other 30 BronxNet LLC owns and wants to build on be used for several 1- and 2-family homes so that the people of the Bronx can continue to realize the dream of home ownership so that families can gain and pass on generational wealth. This will have a positive economic impact on the long-term trajectory of the lives of the people of the Bronx. Upzoning only benefits the developers, and they do not have a vested interest in the Bronx, in its people, or in the future of our borough or of our city. Most of the proceeds from these projects will not stay in our borough, and most of it won't even stay in New York. I vote yes for a supermarket that serves its community, its people, and the future of our borough. A supermarket that stays within current zoning laws. That is how we build a stronger Bronx. That is how we work towards keeping the Bronx a place we invest in, a place we stay in, a place we love and grow in. I vote yes for increasing home ownership in our borough, yes to keeping low-dense neighborhoods in our city, yes to neighbors who are invested in my community's future. I urge this council to support the Bronx and its community and to support New York by voting no to upzoning. Thank you.
Thank you. So next up is Joseph Bivano, followed by Damaris Olivo, and then William Bollinger.
Gotta call him again.
Joseph Bivano, are you here? No.
Oh, no. Okay.
Moving on to Damaris Olivo.
Damaris.
Damaris? No. William Bollinger? Okay.
He's not here.
Peter Bivona?
Peter.
Okay. Lauren George? Okay.
Was here.
Jeanette Alago?
Don't start my minutes yet. Good evening, Madam Borough President Gibson. First, I want to voice that I oppose the upzoning. I haven't lived in Throsneck long, but can tell you it was a dream. As a child, we were one step away from going into a shelter, as our building was condemned by the city. But we got the call that my parents prayed for. A NYCHA apartment became available. As a kid in the Bronx, my parents would go through Throsneck, and I remember that this is where I wanted to be, in a low-density, family-oriented community. See, I lived in high-rise communities all my life throughout the Bronx. I saved, enrolled in the government program, and became the first-generation homeowner. Why are we inundating every corner of the Bronx into high-density communities? Why don't we embrace home ownership? Now that we are the majority, Black and brown and Asian families living in Throsneck, they want to upzone it. Throsneck is integrated. We have shelters, NYCHA, senior buildings, HUD-approved voucher homes, mental health, substance abuse clinic. Use Throsneck as a model for home ownership. 7,000 new apartments are being built just 1 mile from Throsneck. Less than 30%, 2,000 are assigned as affordable. Please explain how that's going to help us. Borough President Gibson, you spoke at the point and you emphasized how the government representative, the developers met with the residents to create the plan. That the input from the residents who lived at the point matters. Sad to say, this was never the case with Throsneck residents. During COVID, this was slipped under our nose. Not one discussion with the community. Why aren't they looking at the vacant land in a high-density zone that's just minutes from Throsneck, where trucks are dumping garbage? The priority should be dealing with the pollution from the highway surrounding Throsneck, infrastructure, transportation, overcrowded trains, buses, streets, hospitals, 400 kids on a wait list.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Jessica Ortiz, followed by Larry Wilson, and then William Thomas.
Good evening, Madam Borough President. My name is Jessica Ortiz, and I was a member of 32BJ, and now I'm a representative for the union. I am here tonight on behalf of the union and our 85,000 property service workers in New York City to express our support for the proposed Innovation Queens project. I am a native New Yorker born and raised in the Bronx. I have seen the economic opportunities and affordable housing firsthand. Over the last few decades, our community has seen immense growth and opportunity, but the need for affordable housing has not been met. A project like this means that community members such as my children will not have to leave the city to find affordable housing. 32BJ supports responsible developers who invest in their communities where they build. I am happy to report that the developers affiliated with BronxNet Associates LLC have reached out early and made a credible commitment to creating prevailing wage building service jobs at this site. We estimate that a mixed-use development like this one proposed by the developer will be permanently staffed by an estimated 12 to 14 building service jobs and workers, and will also have approximately 339 new units, of which 94 of those units will be affordable, in accordance with the MIH program. These jobs are typically filled by local members of the community, and because of this commitment, will pay family-sustaining wages, which will help bring working families into the middle class. These apartments are needed to work for working people in the Bronx. This commitment is good. Prevailing wage jobs will give opportunity for upward mobility, security, dignity for all working class families. For these reasons, we are in support of this project. We have full confidence that BronxNet Associates will be responsible employers and presence in the community. For these reasons, we respectfully urge you to approve the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Please no booing, everyone. Appreciate everyone's respecting each other's testimony. Next up is Larry Wilson, followed by William Thomas, and then Andrew Stern.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Borough President. My name is Larry Wilson, and I'm a commercial member of 32BJ. I'm a native New Yorker, born and raised right here in the Bronx. I am here tonight on behalf of the union, our 85,000 property service workers in New York City, to express our support for the proposed Innovation Queens project. 32BJ supports responsible developers who invest in the communities where they build. I am happy to report that the developers affiliated with BronxNet Associates, LLC, have reached out early and made a credible commitment to creating prevailing wage building service jobs at this site. We estimate that a mixed-use development like this one proposed by the developers will be permanently staffed by an estimated 12 to 14 building service workers, and will also have approximately 339 new units, of which 94 of those units will be affordable housing in accordance with the MIH program. These jobs are typically filled by local members of the community, and because of this commitment, will pay family-sustaining wages, which help bring working families into middle class. These apartments are needed for working people in the Bronx. The commitment to good prevailing wage jobs will give opportunity for upward mobility, security, and dignity to working class families. For these reasons, we are in full support of this project. We have full confidence that BronxNet Associates, LLC will be responsible employers and presence in the community. For these reasons, we respectfully urge you to approve this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. William Thomas.
Hello, everyone. My name is William Thomas, and I serve as the Executive Director of Open New York. I'm here to testify today in support of the rezoning of Bruckner Boulevard. Open New York is an independent, grassroots pro-housing nonprofit. We support the rezoning because there is a dire need for more housing in the neighborhood and New York City as a whole, which the 339 homes here will help to address. I believe everyone knows on some level that New York has a terrible housing shortage, but let me add some context to this conversation. Right now, New Yorkers are facing rent increases up to 50, 60, 70% as rent discounts offered during the pandemic expire. Homelessness is at the highest rate since the Great Depression. There are over 14,000 children who sleep in city shelters each night. The 94 affordable homes this rezoning would provide are desperately needed, and especially in a council district that has only seen 54 such units built since 2014. I would also emphasize that this neighborhood plainly needs more housing. Out of all the community boards in the city, Bronx Community Board 10 comes in 43rd in terms of new homes permitted per capita. In other words, when it comes to new construction, Community Board 10 might not be dead last, but it's in the bottom 10. This might not be a problem for longtime homeowners. After all, they already own their home. But for anyone looking to find a new place in the neighborhood, whether you're a newly married couple looking to buy or a senior looking to downsize to an accessible home with an elevator, the lack of new construction is devastating. I also want to address some opponents' quality of life concerns and emphasize that this project is a clear improvement on the status quo. It replaces vacant land, a batting cage, and a grocery store with a new grocery store. It will actively help local businesses by providing more customers. At the end of the day, we're talking about an apartment building. It will hardly overwhelm or destroy the neighborhood. I also want to emphasize the role of the Borough President here, which is to advocate for the good of all the Bronx. The Bronx needs affordable housing. It is unlikely we will be able to meet these needs if whole community boards or council districts just decide they won't allow it. That's not their problem, but it is their problem. It's all our problem. To put it plainly, we live in a city where there aren't enough homes for the people who want to live here. It has horrifying human consequences.
Thank you for your testimony.
I hope support it.
Andrew Stern, followed by Noah Martz, and then Bertha Lewis.
I speak. My name is Andrew Stern. I would like to testify in support of this project. This project would bring much-needed affordable housing to one of the most affluent and fortunate communities in the Bronx. BronxNet has a much higher median income than other areas of the Bronx, yet Community Board 10 has not contributed to the affordable housing efforts of the rest of the city, building only 58 units in nearly a decade. Let's imagine that in a few years, these buildings have been built, providing crucial affordable housing to hundreds of families, children, neighbors, and classmates. Would you tell them to leave, that they don't belong here? That's what it means to reject this project. I would like to address a point made by someone in opposition to the project. Downzoned communities are not greener, nor are they more environmentally friendly. Citizens of higher density communities, such as apartment buildings, emit far lower carbon levels than those living in single-family homes. This project will green the area by allowing more people to live with a smaller impact on the environment. The infrastructure can and will be improved to support these additional residents, but we can't improve infrastructure without the tax revenues of new citizens living in this area. Many residents have concerns about traffic and congestion in the area. I acknowledge these concerns, and I would ask that the onerous parking requirements are waived, allowing more residents to live without the burden of a car. I would also ask that the Borough President consider all residents of the Bronx and the impact of not providing more homes. This would accelerate gentrification, forcing long-term residents out of their neighborhoods. With these apartments, kids who grew up in BronxNet can live near their parents, and seniors can downsize their housing without having to leave their community. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next speaker will be Bertha Lewis, and then Rosale Cuesta.
Hello. Thank you, Madam Borough President, for having us. My name is Bertha Lewis, and I'm the president of the Black Institute. We are an action tank, a think tank that takes action. I've been in the Bronx for 40 years. I've lived in the Bronx at 136 in Cypress, right next to Bruckner Boulevard. And yes, I am one of the architects of inclusionary zoning. I fought for inclusionary zoning under Mayor Giuliani, Mayor Bloomberg, Mayor de Blasio, and now I fight for it under Mayor Adams. I have been to 22 of inclusionary zoning hearings in Manhattan, yes, in the Bronx, in Queens, in Brooklyn, and in Staten Island. So I know about inclusionary zoning. Either we're in a housing crisis or we're not. Welcome to my world. Inclusionary zoning was something that groups of us got together to figure out what was the future of this city. 300 units? And your hair is on fire? Guess what? Wait until the tenants that had been on waiting lists for years and years come here to this hall and come to BronxNet, and they demand the next hearing on this for this paltry 300 units. You need infrastructure? You're damn right. And so the mayor of this city and the borough president will do it. I've been here before. I've seen the opposition before. I've seen it. I know what low density means. Welcome to my world. I support inclusionary zoning, and I support this project.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up is Rosale. Please. Next up is Rosale Cuesta. Please. I understand, but please. Next up is Rosale Cuesta. No? Michelle Torinio. Apologies for these names. Michelle Torioni. Sorry. No? Next up, Carol Vercio. No? Linda DeVito. Linda DeVito. Okay. Oh. All right, so Linda DeVito, followed by Carol Scholl, and then Carol McManus. You are Linda? Yes,
Yes, I'm
okay.
Linda.
thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I am opposed to the upzoning. I've lived in the Throgs Neck, Pelham Bay area all my life, close to 67 years, so I know the neighborhood has changed. There are a lot of new projects that have been put in that are multi-unit developments. Around the corner from my house, there was one single-family home with a nice lot. They put in 5 3-family homes. There's no parking anywhere now. I agree with everybody, the roads in our area are not wide. Again, Crosby Avenue at 2:30 in the afternoon when school lets out, there's one lane for buses, ambulances. I don't think anybody who did the traffic studies for the area that are proposing this development ever came down at that time of the day to see. Tremont Avenue, which was a 2-lane street, it was put into the road diet. It went down to 1 lane. There's 1 lane of parking, 1 lane of traffic. Buses, when the stores that are on that area get deliveries, it's double parked. So you're down to no lanes on some of those areas. One story about how the supermarket, is for the neighborhood and they really like us. I know somebody personally who, we first learned about the development and we had some protests across the street from the supermarket down, saying, no, we don't want the downzoning. A 93-year-old woman who went into the store to do her shopping. She has no car. She lives maybe 4 blocks from the store. She was approached by the manager of the store and asked to leave because, oh, I saw you. You were with the protesters. We don't want you here. So you tell me how they...
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. So I'm going to go through, I apologize, some of the names I read did not intend to speak. So there's a couple of people that I read that did intend to speak that I'm going to go back to. Mark Walter, are you here? No? And a couple of these may have been duplicates as well, so bear with me as I just read these names. Joseph Vayani. Oh, okay, I'm just making sure there's a couple duplicates and things, so didn't want to miss anyone that's here. Well, actually, let me do it this way. Is anyone that had signed up here that has not spoken that wanted to speak? You? Michelle?
We called Michelle, yeah.
Okay. Please. Yeah. Can you just say your name one more time?
Hi, my name is Michelle Torioni. I'm a 3rd-generation Pelham Bay resident.
Thank you, Michelle.
A once beautiful, clean, vibrant Pelham Bay community, despite being downzoned in 2010, has systematically become overwhelmed with concrete canopies of overdevelopment, with no end in sight. As I stand here tonight, plans are in the works to allow a 17-story monstrosity to be built next to a new, but yet to be occupied, 8-story building. Meanwhile, in our interior, demolition permits are being issued daily to eliminate the small and replace it with the very tall. How does this happen? Simply through as-of-right development, which, because of building regulations, is not subject to community board or city planning approvals. Zoning and code compliant as-of-right projects are unimpeded and unobstructed. They move with lightning speed and quickly alter a community forever. Unlike the low-density growth management area, my community had existing problem. Many older, tall structures on corners were already zoned at higher density R6 and R7 levels. In the development world, this created contextual zoning situations which simply, in medical terms, could be considered pre-existing conditions. Pre-existing conditions make a community vulnerable and susceptible to violent spread of rampant overdevelopment. Look at history. Nearly every upzone is followed by more upzone. And as of right development, there is no way to separate this terrible twosome. The low-density growth management area is currently free from pre-existing conditions of higher density contextual zoning. Allowing this upzone will open the floodgates on development, which will eventually drown every low-density community. Zoning is a community's best safeguard against overdevelopment and ensuring proper quality of life. In this case, if you lose your zoning, lose any portion of the cherished low-density growth management area, you will most certainly lose your community.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any other people here who signed up or intended to speak that had not spoken today? Great. Oh,
wait. Oh, yeah, we called her name.
I don't believe there's anyone else that, did you already spoke, right? I'm sorry, we're only allowing one speaker.
Yeah,
Appreciate the
we
time.
spoke. But Carol McManus, is she want to testify?
Yeah. Carol, you could speak, but I'm sorry, you've already spoken once for the gentleman.
Yeah, come on, Carol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, and thank you so much for giving us this time. As everyone has said in this meeting here, I want to repeat myself. I'm a 58-year-old living in BronxNet since I'm 2. The change, we accept all the change. I live down the block from the BronxNet housing. We never had a problem. That was welcomed. But this is overwhelming. It's in an area where it's very congested. I totally don't think that infrastructure over that overpass will hold that building. That's my personal issue here, okay? I mean, keep your supermarket. That's fine, we need it. I had an aunt that worked in A&P for 40 years, retired there. She still lives in BronxNet. We need a supermarket. Thank you for having that supermarket for all these years. Long story short, build some just regular homes, 1, 2 family homes like it has. I've seen houses built since I'm 10 years old here on small lots, large lots. And it happens. There's room for houses. People want to live in housing. You need parking. You need a yard. I love BronxNet. I also lived on Morris Avenue when I was 2 years old. Okay, my parents brought me to BronxNet. My father's still here, 86 years old. Just build houses. Don't let them overdevelop anymore, okay? When there's a fire, no one's gonna be saved in that building, okay? Firemen cannot get there. My husband's a retired firefighter. You see what's out there. You see all these people. There's accidents, there's fires, there's danger. A lot of people cannot be saved due to doors opening and smoke going in and these buildings not functioning properly after the developers decide to not take care of these buildings anymore, or supers, or, the construction. So that's all I ask. Just respect the neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. Did you already speak? What was your name? Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we're going.
Madam Borough President, tonight we were portrayed and called greedy developers, out-of-towners. We've lived in that community, worked that store, spent our life savings. We came out of tenement housing in Bushwick. We know what it is to live and have an apartment. We know what it is to come up and have a home. We get all this. But at the end of the day, what they think by putting a 4-family home or a 2-family home, whatever we're zoned for, and come out with a supermarket, we're not going to survive. The supermarket will not survive. Our taxes are astronomical. Our operating expenses are astronomical. If we're not allowed to redevelop that property, and this is legacy, we're not going anywhere. We're looking to stay there for another 40, 50 years.
Please, everyone, respect each other's testimony. Thank you.
So at the end of the day, the misconceptions that they have, the fear, we're looking to do something long-term. We're looking to do something great. We're not building something that's awful. It's really...
Please. I know.
With that being said, we just hope you understand why we're doing this. It's only to better the community, to stay there.
Open ears and listen. Listen to the people.
It's only to stay in the community, to make sure that supermarket survives, become part of the Fresh program. There's no money here. This is a long-term, big investment for me, my brother, our families, our kids. There's nothing here for money grab. I'm not Tishman, I'm not L&L. We're just two guys from Bushwick who just, work hard and want to make something that I'm very proud of this project. After 20 years of providing a service for that community, 20 years, day and night, 7 days a week, millions of customers, this is what we're coming. And by the way, Madam Borough President, it's the same people. It's the same
Ladies and
people.
gentlemen, please, we're going to give him an extra 15 seconds because of the disruptions.
Madam Borough President, it's the same people over and over. This does not represent the community of BronxNet. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. So this concludes today's in-person portion of the public hearing. There will be a continuation of today's public hearing on this matter, which will bring the hearing back to order tomorrow, June 22nd, commencing at 5 p.m., which will be done through a virtual public hearing. The link for accessing the virtual public hearing is on the Borough President's website. The hearing remains paused until then. Thank you all, and have a good night.